Hi, my name is Chris FEEHAN. I'm the commanding officer of the 501st Legion's Empire City Garrison. During this whole pandemic, the Empire City Garrison has been doing virtual troops, and we've produced over 100 videos on our ECG Virtual Troop site and our YouTube channel. One of the projects we've been working on is Under the Helmet. It was conceived by our executive officer, John DIAZ, and he interviewed over a dozen of our members, asking them various questions about how they get started in the Legion, what their favorite troops were, and some of their favorite experiences. Today I'm here to present to you some excerpts from those Under the Helmet episodes, featuring some feedback from these members on their most rewarding troops and their favorite troops. We thought it would tie in perfectly to Order 66 Day on June 6th. If you'd like to see more of Under the Helmet, please visit the ECG Virtual Troop page on Facebook for all 11 episodes of the series. Don't forget to execute Order 66. Thank you. The hospital visits that we do hospital visits on a regular basis. We have a partnership with Stony Brook University. It used to be more just whenever they would call us, we would come, and we would also inquire with them on if they had any special children there that wanted to have Star Wars characters come. We now have more of a regular schedule. That's been suspended, of course, because of this whole COVID-19 situation. But in general, we did set up a schedule that we usually go to Stony Brook Hospital 4 times a year. We have a quarterly visit. We have to keep it to only 5 or 6 troopers, and there is some there is a real interest in doing that. So we try to rotate that as much as possible so that everybody gets a chance to do it. We also work with Cohen's Medical Center, and I think in the city we've worked with a few in Manhattan as well.
Yeah, we've worked with a couple.
I think it was Mount Sinai and also Maria Ferrari
Mm-hmm.
up in Westchester. Those visits I can't even describe to you. You're not visiting, some of our events are huge events where we visit thousands of people. We do conventions with thousands of people like Comic-Con. We do libraries with maybe 50 to 100 people. You do a hospital visit, you may be visiting maybe 15 kids at most, maybe 20. And maybe 5 to 10 of those kids are really Star Wars fanatics who are really excited to see you there. It doesn't make any difference. If you even see one kid at a hospital that you're brightening their day by being a Star Wars character for them in that moment, you can see it in their eyes. You can live vicariously through their eyes and see their excitement. To have a kid who's going through any kind of situation that has to land them in the hospital and have them get excited about seeing you, it's an unbelievably moving experience. Just thinking about it, I'm getting a little teary-eyed because I can't even, it's almost indescribable. And I try to explain it to people, and it's so indescribable. It's something I can't even put into words. You can see through their eyes that wonder, that excitement, and to see it from a kid in that kind of situation is just priceless and indescribable. It's an amazing experience. So we strive to make that kind of the core of what we do. That's something we always try to come back to. That's something we really push for and try to give people the opportunities to do that whenever we can. And I'm proud to say that I've done probably 50 or 60 over the course of my career, and they always, every single one of them sticks in my mind as a very moving and touching experience.
I remember my first hospital visit, and I think it was John Hopper who told me, this is going to be a totally different experience, and it's totally going to change how you see this whole thing of trooping. And it really did. It was a really eye-opening experience, and it's good that we wear helmets, because to see these kids get so happy over that, some of them are sadly very sick and might not make it through, get so happy to see us is a very, very very humbling thing.
Recently, I've done a couple of troops over at Stony Brook Hospital. I was told by a member, that those troops can get emotional, and so one of those troops was for a birthday party for a 5-year-old boy, and we had Darth Vader, and we had a security detail of a TD and a TK, And so we go there, and when we entered the room, they set up this one room for the birthday party. When we entered that room, this boy's face lit up like a Christmas tree. And it was just absolutely amazing. He just beeline to Darth Vader. You know, it would have been nice if he came over to a TK. You know, I'm not even sure he even saw us in the room. He just went right over to Darth Vader. And he, for the entire time that we were there, it was like a mile a minute, a mile a minute. I am amazed that Darth Vader didn't lose his voice. Completely amazed. It was just great. It was fantastic. But the part that really got me was at the end of the troop, little boy looked up at his mom, you know, because she said, all right, you know, it's time to go. He looks up at her, and with the eyes of a 5-year-old, you know, he's like, Mom, do you think it'd be all right if Darth Vader could sleep over? Let me tell you something. It's a good thing. It's a good thing I was wearing a bucket, because I was starting to tear up, you know, right there, because, you know, this kid, you know, just the sincerity, and, you know, he was having such a good time with Lord Vader. And, you know, if we could have, we would have stayed there, you know. But yeah, that was like that member said, you know, they can be emotional, and yeah, that was emotional, rewarding, like you said. I'll never forget that troop.
Yeah, the rewarding troop for me would also be, I guess, considered my pinnacle. It would be the troop to Jordan, because I was actually part of the group that got to go to Amman, Jordan, to be at the premiere for Rise of Skywalker. On the rewarding side of it was that, you know, it wasn't just going to the premiere. It was going to the country itself. And one of the first troops we did was at a hospital for kids with cancer. And as a new person, that was my first hospital visit.
Always a great experience, the press.
And from everybody that I've talked to about those are always the most rewarding and great. And it was so amazing. But to be able to do that on a troop like that was even way beyond anything I've ever expected to happen.
Hospital visits, they get you, you know, they make you feel good and bad at the same time. You know, you're sad for these kids, but you're glad that you're giving them that 5-10 minutes you're with them to forget about, you know, how bad they are.
Yeah, sure.
They're the most rewarding troops. I will never turn down a hospital troop.
Mm-hmm.
I will always do a hospital troop as Vader. I won't do it as my officer, because I feel the kids don't want to see a guy in a black suit. They want to see armor. They want to see Darth Vader. They want to see, you know, that sort of thing. Boba Fett, whatever.
It's also a lot better wearing a helmet in those situations, because it does.
Oh yeah, because there are times you get teary-eyed.
Man, I love trooping. It's like, you know, I try to do the small troops, right? Like I love doing the library troops. I love, you know, doing the little street fairs and things like that. I live on Long Island, so there's a lot of that, especially in the summertime. And I'm a teacher, so in the summertime I have more time to troop. That's usually when I can get a lot of my trooping in. But I got to tell you, I did my first hospital this year. This was the first. Well, actually, it was last year now. It was 2019. I did my first hospital. It was Stony Brook. And man, that is some powerful stuff, you know, seeing those kids and how much they love it and how excited they get. I mean, and then hearing them talk about it, it's just, that was super cool.
Hospital troops, obviously. I'm sure everybody talks about our hospital troops.
Yeah, we always get, always hear hospital troops, and you always hear like Yankee Stadium or stuff like that as the two top for either end of the spectrum. But I mean, as you know, hospital troops, that's for people that aren't in this group and don't know, and you know, it's a very humbling experience. I'm sure you can explain. How is it over there in Jordan, the hospital experience?
You know, it was a little different. It was a little different than walking around, you know, Cohen's Children's or Stony Brook. The children over there, obviously, you know, at that age, they weren't fluent in English. Most of them, 90% of them weren't fluent in English. And some of them didn't know what Star Wars was. So the hospital staff actually started playing the Star Wars movies and all of the lounges and all of the community rooms and everything the day before, so the children could watch these so they wouldn't be frightened at us when we actually showed up. You know, so because, you know, not knowing who Star Wars was, and then, you know, Vader and 3 stormtroopers come walking in, you could get a little scared. So they actually started playing the movies and you know, just gave us a little bit of heads up. We obviously, like most hospital troops, we have to bring our guns home. Mm-hmm. We have to leave our guns home, I should say. We leave the blasters at home. But something was really, you know, something really hit home when the hospital staff said that we actually have some Syrian refugee children here. So it's so we definitely cannot walk around with the blasters on, and we'd actually appreciate it if you could pop off your helmet once or twice to let which is usually, you know, verboten when we do troops, but in this case we made an exception. Popped off our helmets just to, you know, let the kids, and we had no meltdowns. All the kids, you know, had great times. They enjoyed being with us and taking pictures with us, and obviously everybody knew what was happening, so a lot of the families had come to the hospital as well that day, so it was just a great big party. We did a lot of the rooms, and then we went to the big community room where all the families were, and it was just it was party central. We had a great time.
The most rewarding has been going to hospital, and it is absolutely the most rewarding experience that I will have with this group is whenever we go to the hospitals or we do the Make-A-Wish event. You know, actually, there was supposed to be a big Make-A-Wish event this week that was postponed because it was supposed to be granting a kid's wish. We were doing it with Disney. The kid wanted to go to Galaxy's Edge. They were going to bring him down there. We were doing a whole big reveal. Can't do now. But doing the hospital visit, just being there, and the whole time you're like focusing on these kids that they're sick, you know, they're in these beds for days, weeks, months. You think this lockdown is bad? Those kids would be like, did that easy. 8 weeks, that's nothing. Come back here in 3 years. I'll still be here. Like, so like the focus is, okay, I want to give each kid 5 minutes where they're not thinking about being in the hospital. You go there, you interact with everyone else, you interact with the kids. Whatever you gotta do to make the kids laugh. I always bring a bunch of our swag, trading cards. I buy tons of patches when they're up on the forums, and I, you know, give these kids prizes and stuff, and they smile and they laugh and they're happy. And
yeah,
it's outside, and then you get in your car and you cry. You cry your entire drive home, but you do not cry when you're there.
No, you can't.
Smile. You make the kids smile. You make them laugh. You make them forget what they're doing, and you leave, and you feel like you.
And that's when you put on the Kylo helmet, so nobody can see you tear up.
That's the joke I make, and everyone's like, "Why are you wearing the helmet to this one?" So I can cry the entire time, and no one will see it.
Would be Jake's Jedi's. We kind of took on this kid in Staten Island. Jake, he was diagnosed with cancer, and they do this walk for life. And I'm happy to say that Jake has now beat cancer and is in remission and is doing great. But you know, the whole idea of his parents set this thing up where he had no idea we were showing up, and you know, if I had that kid's problems, I don't know. You know, that was one of my first Boba Fett troops, and I try to make it every year when they have it. as different characters. One time I was Vader there as well, but just being able to support Jake and kind of we kind of took him in as our own, gave him a bunch of stuff and, made him an honorary member of the ECG, and just, he's ours and we're his, and he beat it, and that's awesome. And, I'm humbled to be a part of that journey. And I did one Make-A-Wish gig, which was really, really cool too. Very impactful, very insightful, because you get to see, sometimes you go to these places and you're good thinking that you're wearing a mask because you'll get misty, you'll get you'll get emotional about it, and you know what, they have no idea. So having that thing on behind the bucket is sometimes a really good thing. But I guess the third one, not that Make-A-Wish wasn't important, it was very, very important. But that was a little bit more structured, because there are a lot of rules and criteria to deal to be a part of Make-A-Wish. So I was happy to be a part of it.
We do get to do some incredible troops for different charities. Like we get to do things for nonprofits like the Intrepid, where we got to, see the Enterprise and got to take pictures with it and got to do a couple of kids' days at the Intrepid. That was just, an incredible museum to visit and an incredible experience to get to be there and participate in an event there. We do the Cradle of Aviation out here on the island, which is another aviation museum, very often. I'd say we do that 3 or 4 times a year and do various events for different charitable organizations there. And we get asked to do just crazy, crazy stuff that Disney Lucasfilm asked us to do that I never would have imagined in a million years that I would actually get to do just by putting together some plastic costume and joining the 501st Legion. I mean, everything from being on the Today Show, Good Morning America, doing a commercial for Spike TV that was like a holiday-themed commercial, and dancing around and to some ridiculous Star Wars song that was a holiday-themed song. But we've done like Ink Masters, what's that show? The Home Makeover show.
Yeah.
That we did it for a family that had lost their home in a fire. And they were getting a trip to Disney World, and they had brought us in to do that. But it runs the gamut from different television appearances, promotional appearances. And it's nice to be recognized by Lucasfilm and Disney for our accuracy, that they understand, that they know that if they request us, that we're going to know how to stand there and act appropriately, that we're going to obey their rules, and that we're going to show up in a movie-accurate costume. They really have no qualms and no worries about partnering with us and working with us whenever they need us for those types of experiences. So it's great that they afford us those opportunities and open that up to the members of the group.
We've gotten to do some pretty crazy things. Again, it was another vague email we got from the Heads Up, and they said, hey, we need somebody to wear this costume for, what was it, The View.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, but they needed a certain size. So honestly, it was a small size. So it always winds up to be me or Chris for that, because we are very skinny guys. So I got picked and had no clue what I was wearing until I got there. And when I got there, it was the Sith Trooper armor from The Rise of Skywalker. Not only was it the armor, but it was one of the screen used armors in the movie that I got to wear. And that was such an amazing experience. And to put on one of the costumes from the movie is crazy. And I guess it turned out well, because what was it, like a month later?
A month later, we both got asked to do the ESPN commercial.
Yeah, we got asked to do an ESPN commercial in Connecticut, and they messaged me, hey, would you like to come do the Sith Trooper again? And you don't have to ask me that, of course. Yeah, of course I'm going to do it.
You don't have to ask me twice.
So I was lucky enough to be able to do it again, and yeah, it was a crazy experience.
every troop that you do, there is, you know, a reward. Whether it's a troop at a library or a sporting event, or, you know, a con or this or that, you know, you make a little kid smile. You know, they come up to you, you know, they grab your leg or something, you know. It's just putting on the armor and making somebody smile. And it's not just kids. I mean, you're making, you know, adults smile too. You know? You know, sometimes it's hard to differentiate, you know, who got, you know, more excited, you know, the kid or his parents, you know. You know, you get those, oh, can we take a picture with you? You know, it's for, you know, oh, okay, no problem. But as far as rewarding troops, you know, there's, you know, also sentimental, and, you know, everybody gets into trooping for different reasons.
Of course.
You know, they like certain types of troops or this or that. I have a nephew who's autistic, and I'll never forget, we had a troop roll around. It was an autism event over at Jones Beach. And when that rolled around, it was a great participation from the garrison. We had a bunch of members there, and you know, we took pictures with people, you know, there. But they, you know, they put us over at the start. It was a walk. It was a walk for awareness and also to raise funds. And they put us over at the start-finish line, and you literally had thousands of people walking by you, and you're, you know, high-fiving them, and you know, they'll come over and you know, take selfies with you, and this and that. And it was just a great event. I remember having, you know, a real, you know, great feeling. I mean, you know, we have great feelings, you know, at many events and everything, but that one, that was very sentimental, and it hit home, you know, for me. Very rewarding.
The first day, the day of the premiere, it was led up by the hospital visit. Then we went to a mall and went walking around the mall and took pictures in the center of the mall. And then we went to the mall that actually had the movie theater in it, did another walk around that mall with hundreds of people around snapping pictures and stuff. And then went into a movie theater that they had set up for us to get changed in. That was like our changing room, was like a movie theater that they weren't using. Mm-hmm. And so we were all standing around getting in our gear, and we had to wait about 45 minutes and then to walk out onto the red carpet. And it was just amazing. And then the next day after the movie premiere, so we were up till, you know, 10 o'clock at night. We did 3 troops in a day. And then the next day we woke up at like 5 in the morning, met downstairs, and got into these 4-wheel drive Forerunners and went out into the desert to see the filming locations, which was just absolutely amazing.
Since you've been in the 501st, we joined about the same time, a few months apart in 2017. Yeah. We had a really memorable troop. What really stands out in terms of a memorable experience?
I think the big fun ones where there's a ton of people, a ton of members, are always really fun. I really liked the first 2 Yankees troops that I did, the New York Yankees. It was just walking on the field was so cool. There was a March of Dimes walk that I did that was just great. It was like, I never high-fived so many people in my life. People running up to you, and there's a real surprise, especially when the kids see us, because they're there for a walk, but they didn't know they were also going to get to see Darth Vader, you know. So there's a real excitement and a real surprise, and they run over, and you get so many high fives and hugs, and even as a bad guy, you get so many hugs. How about you? What's your favorite troop?
Well, a lot of things you said. I like the big troops because I like to be around a lot of us. Mm-hmm. Like, you see people you haven't seen in a while, and you're like, hey, how's it going? I really like the community. But the more rewarding troops in terms of being with kids and fans are the smaller ones, because for obvious reasons. You know, I remember we were doing, what was it, Light Up a Life at Chelsea Piers to benefit New York Presbyterian Hospital. And there's so many little kids. And I was in the biker scout, and one kid was really crying, really scared. So I got down on my knees, and I know you're not supposed to do this. I understand the rules, but I flipped my helmet up, which I love in the biker scout. And the kid went from being terrified to being fascinated, like that. Stuff like that, seeing kids really really happy and so forth. I mean, that's what we're doing it for, you know?
My favorite trooping moment came just recently. I was trooping CP Nassau with Chris. That's a great organization, by the way, as you know. And we were doing a polar plunge. And this little girl is walking around with, I'm also a huge Jurassic Park fan, by the way. Jurassic Park is probably my favorite movie next to Star Wars.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's walking around and she's got this figure of a mesosaur on a leash and she's dragging it around. So when I asked her about it, I'm like, oh man, that's so cool. I like your dinosaur. She's like, it's a mesosaur. I was like, yes, that is what I want my daughter to be like. I thought it was the funniest thing ever. She's just walking around her mesosaur, happy as a clam. Coolest thing I've ever seen. You don't see that enough now in little girls, I find.
No, yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, so that's my goal. That's father goals for my daughter. I want her to be walking around a mesosaur on a leash. Thought that was the cutest thing ever.
And I owe a lot of wonderful experiences being in the 501st. I mean, it just opened up a lot of great opportunities. Because of being in the 501st, I ended up being featured in, multiple TV commercials. In fact, you were in one of commercial.
Yep.
Right? We did that Christmas commercial.
Yeah, me and Chris were talking about that too on our interview, and yeah, it's crazy how every year people still post that, and you can go, oh yeah, that's me in there.
And it was just, remember how freezing it was?
Yeah, it was freezing. They had no place to put us. They just had us standing in the cold, like for
a cup of hot cocoa. I remember that, but yeah, there was that. I did other commercials, being featured as a stormtrooper, and it also knocked off another, personal bucket list or wish list notch in my head. It got me to be in a couple times for a couple of years. I got to be in an official Disney parade at Disney World for Star Wars Disney weekends when they used to do that.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, when they used to invite the garrisons to come, obviously led by the local Florida garrison over there. But if you submitted your material, if you were from another garrison, they would probably accept you. And I got accepted to join in March, with them. I get for at least 2 years, about 2 or 3 years, and that was great. I mean, I was burning in my armor in the Orlando heat, but I was in an official Disney parade. That was like amazing for me.
There have been some fun ones. There have been some that are obviously really high profile, like being a stormtrooper on Yankee Stadium field and being able to walk out Ron Howard. Ron Howard was going to throw out the first pitch of the night. So a team of us stormtroopers got to walk out Ron Howard out onto the pitching mound, and that was just great. And then the year after that, being dressed as Darth Vader and being on the huge screen at Yankee Stadium, I should say your face, but it's not really your face, but you being on the big stadium screen. And then there's always down to the other end of the side of the spectrum with library troops and like local street fairs and stuff like that, where you just get, the little kids coming right up to you just in amazement, just looking at you. It's just surreal to them. And sometimes it's not even the little kids, it's the adults. It's the people that are our age that grew up but never saw a stormtrooper in real life. Nowadays you can see them in Disney, but not everybody gets to go to Disney. But just people seeing a stormtrooper in real life up close, it always just blows people's minds. I don't care how old you are.
I got to have one of the best experiences of my life, and I don't tell my fiance this. Probably will be the best experience of my life. She actually got to do it with me. We got selected to go to the premiere of The Last Jedi in Hollywood. From all the work that we do in the group, we got selected by one of the groups to go and do that, and it was unbelievable. It was just being there, seeing the movie before, a couple days early, and just getting to meet some of the actors, some of these people that have, you know, some of them, like, it's a job for them, you know, and some of them have embraced so much. Some of these actors, they love the fans just as much as we do.
Yankee Stadium. Yankee Stadium, because I'm a Yankees fan, and you get to go out on the field. And I know as a kid, I was sitting in the last row. I don't know if you kids know this, but going to Yankee Stadium is very expensive. So I actually had season tickets, a limited package where I was in the dead last row behind home plate, greatest seats in the world. A lot of people focus on everybody on the field level, and I was able to walk the field, and I was able to identify and wave and point to the kid that maybe his parents had to wait 6 months because it was Star Wars Day to save up the money to go to that. And I wanted to make sure that they were recognized and that they were appreciated. And, you know, just to be able to see somebody's face light up. I mean, you're on the field, you know, and you're looking up in the 300 and the 400 section, and you're pointing at that kid, and that kid's pointing back at you. And he's going to go home with a memory going, the Star Wars guy saw me all the way up here, and he gave me a high five, and he pointed at me. And I pointed back, and he waved to make sure that he knew that I pointed at him. And, you know, the kid went back with something. You know what I mean? That's, you know, I'm getting to live a dream by being on the field at Yankee Stadium, hallowed ground to me. And I'm able to point up to that kid that maybe couldn't be there. You know, it could have taken a long time for his family to be able to take him to that, because Star Wars Day was special, and they made it a big deal. And I was hoping and happy to be able to make it a bigger deal for that person. You know what I mean? Those kids.